Roman Reigns and the Usos will be on the same page for the first time in over a year. The long-running Bloodline saga has been mapped out to swerve the audience at every turn. The upcoming six-man tag team match pitting the OG Bloodline against Solo Sikoa's Bloodline shouldn't be any different. The original tribal chief may be a changed man, but he still craves power. Roman Reigns is dead set on getting back the Eula Fala, which seems to inadvertently corrupt people's minds. Taking all this into account, the head of the table could do the unthinkable and betray the Usos at Crown Jewel and replace them with two debuting WWE stars in Hikuleo and Zilla Fatu. Despite having Jimmy and G back on his side, Roman has to admit he can't get anywhere near the red necklace unless he has a permanent tribe. For what it's worth, the OG Bloodline didn't get back together because Roman Reigns needed help. Every member of the OG Bloodline was wronged by Solo Sikoa and Co. The Street Champion stole Roman Reigns' Eula Fala and took over his bloodline in his absence. Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman were kicked out of the faction. Meanwhile, Jey Uso lost his Intercontinental title, the only thing that solidified his single success, courtesy of Solo Sikoa. Every member has their reasons to go after the Solo Sikoa-led bloodline. But once the business is over, chances are high that G and Jimmy will part ways with Reigns. The addition of Zilla Fatu and Hikuleo would add another layer to the storyline. As strange as it sounds, the heel versus heel dynamic would make the most sense, especially when there's a battle of supremacy. In an interview with Flagrant, undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes opened up about his equation with Roman Reigns. The American Nightmare also addressed whether he has real-life heat with the original tribal chief. Rhodes and Reigns are destined to cross paths again down the road. But for now, the American Nightmare has his sights set on winning the inaugural Crown Jewel Championship when he faces Gunther on November 2. For over 3 years, Roman Reigns has dominated WWE with his nearly unbreakable title reign and the unmatched power of the Bloodline faction. Together with the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman, he has redefined the concept of family loyalty in WWE. But in the past year, the Bloodline's unity has cracked, and many believe that Reigns' own manipulation and obsession with control were responsible. After the Usos distanced themselves from Roman, choosing independence over blind loyalty, it seemed like the Bloodline's end was inevitable. But what if Roman Reigns isn't ready to let go of his vision of a Bloodline dynasty? What if at Crown Jewel, he unveils a plan that doesn't just break the bond with his cousins, but introduces two new powerhouse stars, replacing the Usos altogether? As Crown Jewel approaches, Roman Reigns issues a mysterious challenge to the Usos. Though he's already distanced himself from them, he addresses them in a segment on SmackDown, hinting that one last family test awaits in Saudi Arabia. In classic Roman fashion, he doesn't reveal much, only stating that this is a chance for redemption. The Usos, eager to prove their legacy without Roman's shadow, accept the invitation, but remain cautious, knowing that Roman is the master of mind games. Meanwhile, whispers in the WWE universe speculate about the arrival of new stars aligned with Reigns. Despite the uncertainty, the Usos promise their fans that they'll either reclaim their place in the Bloodline or end Roman's manipulation once and for all. At Crown Jewel, Reigns enters the ring alone, donning a look that's more ominous than usual. He's greeted with a mix of boos and cheers, an embodiment of his complex relationship with fans. The Usos' music hits next, and they walk out with a sense of finality, knowing this could be their last confrontation with Roman. Once in the ring, the Usos grab microphones, demanding Roman drop the act and tell them why they were really called out. Roman, in his cold and calculated manner, tells them that the Bloodline has moved beyond what they once represented. He implies that their failure to fall in line created weaknesses he can no longer afford, and just when the confrontation seems to be peaking, Roman pauses, smirking as if he's holding back a final twist. Just as tensions reach their breaking point, the lights in the arena dim. The Titantron flashes, showing a cryptic message that reads, "The Bloodline evolves." Two imposing figures step out from backstage, shrouded in shadow. The crowd buzzes with curiosity. No one is certain who these figures are. When the lights come up, WWE fans see two new stars making their surprise debut alongside Reigns. Imagine the impact of someone like Braun Breaker, the son of Rick Steiner, joining the Bloodline as a powerhouse with raw strength and lineage. perfectly aligned with Reigns' vision of dominance. Or perhaps a dynamic figure from NXT like Carmelo Hayes, whose charisma and skill could elevate him as a ruthless, strategic addition. These two wrestlers bring a new edge to the bloodline, showcasing a modern, ruthless twist on the legacy Roman claims to defend. Roman, smirking, introduces the new members as the next generation of the bloodline. He coldly tells the Usos that they no longer fit his vision of the family. It's time to evolve, he says, signaling that the Usos are expendable. The Usos barely have a moment to process before the attack begins. Roman's new recruits unleash a brutal beatdown, targeting the Usos with a ferocity meant to send a message. The Usos fight back valiantly, showing the resilience and spirit that made them tag team champions. But in a 2-on-3 scenario, they're outmatched. Roman joins in, delivering a Superman punch to G, the cousin he once manipulated and tormented into loyalty. The arena is in stunned silence as the Usos are left in the ring, lying battered and defeated. Roman stands over them, flanked by his new recruits, and raises his hand as Paul Heyman, watching in awe, proclaims the next era of the bloodline. The aftermath of this betrayal would send shockwaves through WWE. With his actions, Roman solidifies himself as WWE's ultimate villain, a character driven by family ties but unbound by sentiment. By discarding his own cousins, he demonstrates that loyalty to him must be absolute, with no room for dissent. This sets up a compelling series of feuds for the months ahead. The Usos' quest for revenge. Stripped of their role in the bloodline and betrayed by their family, the Usos would return with a vengeance. This betrayal wouldn't just be about wrestling. It would become a deeply personal grudge, with G and Jimmy seeking to dismantle the new bloodline from the outside. They could form alliances with other WWE superstars who have been wronged by Roman, potentially leading to a faction that stands in opposition to Roman's reign of terror. Solo Sikoa's dilemma. The betrayal also puts Solo Sikoa in a difficult position. He was brought into the bloodline by his brothers, but he's been loyal to Roman's vision. Now, he must choose. Does he side with his brothers, knowing the risk? Or does he stand by Roman, securing his own position in the faction? This internal conflict could deepen Solo's character, potentially leading to a storyline where he becomes either Roman's next loyal soldier or an unlikely rebel, adding more depth to the faction's dynamic. New stars on the rise. For the two debuting stars, this storyline would be a career-defining launchpad. Not only would they be elevated by association with Roman Reigns, but their debut as enforcers of the bloodline gives them instant credibility. WWE could lean into their unique skills, pitting them against the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and other established stars to cement their place in the main roster. Roman's ruthlessness. With this betrayal, Roman Reigns would enter a new phase as WWE's top heel. No longer content with simply retaining his title, he'd be portrayed as a man obsessed with control, willing to turn on his own blood to maintain his vision. This character shift would align with classic heel dynamics, but with the added gravitas of betrayal on a familial level. WWE could push Roman as a relentless leader, perhaps setting him up for a future clash with a returning star or a fresh challenger who sees through his manipulations. The fallout of this betrayal wouldn't just impact the Usos and Roman. It would breathe new life into the Bloodline saga, transforming it into one of WWE's most multi-layered storylines. By replacing the Usos with debuting stars, WWE would introduce fresh talent while building on the family drama that made the Bloodline storyline so compelling in the first place. Ultimately, Crown Jewel would go down as the night the Bloodline didn't just survive but evolved. Roman Reigns, at the cost of family loyalty, would craft a new version of his faction, one that promises to dominate WWE in an entirely new way. And as the Usos wage war from the outside, fans would be in for an unforgettable chapter in WWE history, one where family ties are tested, broken, and rebuilt in the name of power and lays.